Hello and welcome to another Pasta Chat. This Pasta Chat is going to be about why comparison is the thief of joy. And why joy is the thief of comparison. No, why comparison is the thief of joy. Basically, weightlifting, very objective sport. Someone lifts 100 kilos, they are objectively stronger than someone who only lifts 90 if they're the same body weight. However, everyone has a very different journey and story in the sport. So if you're someone that's, even if you've got two people who've only been lifting a year each, but one of them is 50 years old and has never done any sport in their life and has sat at a desk all their life, their lifts after 1 year are obviously going to look completely different to the 21-year-old uni student who has, yes, only been lifting a year, but has played high-level athletics or high-level rugby, judo, wrestling, sports their whole life. Obviously, right? So why would we ever compare against people that aren't our age, our weight, our experience level? But then you can think, well, even if someone is your same age, your same weight, your same experience level, have they come from the same sport as you? Have they had the same injuries as you? Have they had the same coaching as you? The answer is no. There's not going to be someone that's had everything exactly the same as you. So why do we just limit ourselves to comparing only those who are our age? Okay, I can compare myself to another 29, 30-year-old. But even if we've both been in the sport for 10 years, if they've had a long history of doing gymnastics at a super high level, they might just have better movement skills than me. If they've had less injuries or more injuries. So why do we just limit ourselves to the big rocks? If you look at performance and you look at like the analogy of rocks in a jar, and you have the big rocks at the bottom, and that can be things like age, previous sporting history, training history, injury history, and then you would have, or even things like body length, leg lengths relative to the torso, or body mass, or all this stuff. And then the smaller rocks would be other things, and the sand at the top would be even smaller things. You might have like coaching in there, you might have all these different factors. No one's jar of rocks is exactly the same as your jar of rocks. So by comparison, by definition, you cannot compare. Even if someone, like, it might be easier for me to compare to another 29-year-old super heavyweight who's been lifting for 10 years than it is for me to compare to a 20-year-old Chinese female 49-kilo lifter, because obviously one is a lot closer to me. But even the super who is the same age as me and the same experience level as me doesn't have everything else the same as me. So that's what I'm saying. By definition, no one's jar of rocks is the same as someone else's. So why would you even think about comparing? Why is it only that we compare to people who are significantly better than us as well? Well, it's good to see other people who are better than you, because then you can actually have something to aim for. You can see that the numbers you want are possible. That's fine. But when you let it get in the way of your fun and your enjoyment, that's when obviously issues start happening. So if you're someone that likes to look at other lifters on like Instagram, but you get upset by it, just delete Instagram or block them or mute them, because at the end of the day, like, you're putting yourself through this misery, but it's by your own choice. So it doesn't, their ability level or their progress or whatever, their story has nothing to do with your story. So it's in a selfish kind of way, just keep it to yourself. Like, be proud of your own journey, be proud of their journey, don't get me wrong, but don't compare, because your jar of rocks and sand is completely different. It has different amounts of rocks, it has different size of rocks and different grains of sand. So at the same time, what I would say is, yes, keep looking at other lifters, because it's always good to see other people, but if it makes you upset, then it's not worth it. If a specific person makes you upset, it's not worth it. So don't even try, basically. A story of mine is like, before my hip surgery, I was technically the #1 super heavyweight male super heavyweight in Britain. So at the time, I was the best super heavyweight in Britain. I'm just double checking that thought in my head, yeah, because I was better than everyone except Andy Griffiths, who was a 110 at the time, or 109, sorry, whatever it was, 110. So at the time, when I got injured and won the English, I was the best in Britain, and that is an objective fact for that year at the time. I'm not saying I was the strongest in Britain, because there were people in lighter weight categories who were stronger than me, including Andy, people like Ramiro and Cyril and people like that. But just subjectively, in the rankings, I think anyway, that I was #1. Now, I'm #4, right? And I'm #4 now, but I'm #4 now even if I had my PB total from 2 years ago, I think. I'd be 3 or 4, and if it wasn't 4, it'd be 3 by like a kilo. Because Andy Griffiths has come back to the Supers, he was stronger than me anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Jasper and James Wales, who were two, the people who don't know, who were two younger than me, younger guys. Jasper's like 21, 22 maybe. James is, I actually don't know, but he's like 26, I don't know. But he's very good. They're both very good. They're both stronger than me currently, and they both like come up really fast and really well, and they've both done really well. So what I'm trying to say is, after I had the surgery, obviously I couldn't train, and I did find it hard initially watching these 3 guys especially come back, or come back in Andy's case and come up in the other 2's cases, because I was like, oh, they're going to catch me, they're going to beat me. And it didn't take that. I was in that state for a little bit, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to lie and say I didn't have that feeling at all, but it didn't actually take that long for me to get out of it. Pretty much 6 weeks. Once I got off the crutches, I was kind of fine again, because I could move around. But mentally, if I'd have stayed in that place, like, I would have either pushed myself to come back way too soon and got another big injury, or, I would have just quit the sport from just being depressed and pissed off that I couldn't keep up with these guys or catch back up to these guys, right? Now I can look at these guys and be like, damn, what they're doing is really inspiring me. It's really good to see, but I can see it as well where it could get me down, right? If I let it get me down, it not only is very sad if I let it get me down, but it doesn't take into account all the success I've had in the meantime, in this build-up time. I would be forgetting that I've PB'd my back squat, I've jerked 201, I've had other big achievements, power snatch PB, power clean PB, just because I haven't had a snatch and a clean jerk PB, annoyingly. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think I'm a million miles off. I'm getting back to the old numbers where we might be pushing up close, hopefully the end of this year. But if I was to let that get me down, I wouldn't be able to stay in the sport very long. It would be brutal, and I'd probably also just be miserable to be around, because I'd just be complaining all the time, and or kind of come across as like having a big ego. It's very important to focus on yourself in an almost selfish manner and be like, well, I actually don't care about Brian, who's better than me now, or Steve, who's better than me now, because I'm just focusing on myself. It's a much more healthy way to think about it. As long as you're not saying, oh, Steve's a wanker because he's better than me, then it's fine. But in the case of these 3 lads who have come up and have surpassed my numbers, I can look at them and be inspired and be motivated, and at the same time be thankful that they've, given me that inspiration and that motivation. And it puts me as an underdog again, which is, I kind of prefer anyway. But comparisons, I think, for joy, it wouldn't have, if all the joy I've had in the last year or so of training, rehabbing the injury, all the cool stuff I've done in that time, I wouldn't be able to enjoy because I was comparing to these other people who have, again, like I said, completely different stories and completely different everything, because they're different people, and as people we are individuals, unique individuals. So my advice to you is stop comparing people as quickly as you can. You are in a group of people. In my masters, you would be in the OPMP group, the unhealthy group. My research suggests that you won't stay in the sport very long unless you change that attitude. Now, obviously, if you're in that attitude now, that space now, you can get out of it. That's absolutely, you can do that. But it is a bit, you have to make it a choice. You can't have too much ego involvement in the numbers. You can't have too much reliance on the numbers as a measure of your success as a human being. Because then, if you did, for example, even if I was getting PBs, even if all my self-esteem was measured by the numbers I lift, then even if my numbers were getting bigger, but someone else is beating me still, it still wouldn't necessarily help the self-esteem in that sense. So try to just have that selfish outlook on life when people have done other things, in the sense of be very grateful and congratulatory of them because it's awesome what they're doing, but don't let it get you down, and be selfish in the sense of yes, they've snatched 15 kilos more than me, 100 kilos, whatever, but I've done this and I've done this and I'm really proud of myself. Two things can happen at the same time. You can be proud of yourself and you can be proud of them and happy for them. We're all individuals. We've all got our own rocks and our sand and our stones in the jar, okay? So it's when you think about it objectively, it's completely illogical to even think about comparing to someone else in that sense. So yeah, Frozen is a thief of joy. It does take people a long time to realise this sometimes, and I think a part of it is just growing up in the sport and getting more time in the sport and finding joy in other things as well. Now that's not to say don't push the numbers, like the sport is a number sport and you want to push, and competition is really good for people mentally. I think it's really good to have competition and compete with others. Competing with others is a really good thing to have. That's why we push it in schools from a young age. We push kids to compete. But there's a mindset around competing which you can be super competitive and a model athlete in the sense of determination to beat other people, determination to win, but not be an absolute utter arsehole about it where it affects your mental health and it affects everyone around you's mental health. So basically be a good person, be happy for others, and hopefully that was useful.